Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our slash entitled people. In today's episode, a woman wants me forget my tea so she can privately use a shared kitchen. Recreationally entitled. Karen standoff on the bus. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. A woman wants me forget my tea so she can privately use a shared kitchen. I work in the marketing department of a smallish cosmetics company. I'm not what you would call higher up in the company, but I'm not entry-level either. Earlier today, I went into the office's common area/kitchen to make a cup of tea, Earl Grey, if you care. A woman talking on a phone came into the room as I was waiting on the kettle to boil. I recognize her as one of our new hires from sales. I doubt she's been here long enough to get her first check. She was talking loudly, but I ignored her. It's a somewhat loud office, so it isn't a big deal for someone to make a little noise. A minute or so later, she says into the phone, "Hold on, I need some privacy," and then turns to me and says, "Excuse me, sorry, I'm on a private call. I need you to leave." I'm confused at first, then what she says registers. I get this surprised smile on my face, the fine that says, "You joking, mate?" I tell her no. She gives me the look. Her mouth is open, eyes wide. How dare I use the common area for what it's for? She doesn't even say anything. I point to the kettle. I tell her I'm making tea. She tells me that it is an important medical call. I tell her the kitchen isn't a private room, and that she can go to an empty conference room or to her car if the matter is that sensitive. She says she doesn't like the chairs in the conference room and that it's too cold to walk out to her car. I shrug. She eventually gets that I'm not leaving until I've had my tea, and she stomps off to a conference room. I hate being a narc, but just let me make my tea in peace. So, I decide to walk down to sales and chat with her supervisor, whom I know fairly well. About the time I finish relaying the experience, the woman in question walks in, sees me, and stops. I point her out to the supervisor, pat him on the back, walk back to my office and type this up. Tell the supervisor the story. Laugh at her pretentiousness together. Some people volunteer to be the subject of office gossip. It wouldn't be right to deny them their 15 minutes of fame. I think the embarrassment on her face when she saw me talking with her supervisor was enough for me. Infinitely satisfying. I bet she got a chav voice like that Tracy Dooley. "Earl Grey if you care." I do care. You have chosen wisely. Sometimes the basics are the best. Earl Grey and jasmine for life. Yes, but also English breakfast and Yorkshire breakfast are very refreshing. Yup. I was given that line from a kid of one of the team leaders in my previous job. She was 12 and told me not to stay in the office kitchen as she was doing her nails. I ignored her, and she went to cry to daddy. She was chewed out by him, but I have more stories about her. Recreationally entitled. I was cycling at a local park earlier today. It's a sandy area, so I lower the pressure in the tires to make rolling over obstacles easier. Got back to the parking lot, put the bike on the car rack, pulled out a pump and filled the tires back up to normal pressure. As I disconnected the pump and moved to stow it in the car and drive home, someone cleared their throat loudly behind me. I turned around and there was a woman there with a bike with an obvious flat, who said, "You took long enough to finish doing your bike first instead of park visitors. Now pump up my tires." I goggled and Obs looked confused because she continued, "Do your job?" I was dressed in a khaki green polo shirt and my car is green, and realized that she thought I worked for the park district. I don't work for the park district. This is my car and bike. She didn't believe me and wanted my supervisor's name, and demanded again that I fill up her tire. At this point, I was getting annoyed. I do not work here. If you had asked nicely, I might have helped you, but your high-handed bullshit means I won't. I'm leaving now. I got in the car and started it, and she stood behind the car, refusing to let me back out, all the while directing a steady stream of invective at me with surprising variety and volume. Thankfully, a real park ranger heard the noise and walked over. She told him I wasn't doing my job and had refused to help her, and she wanted to report me to the park supervisor. I explained that I was trying to leave and she was blocking me in because she wanted me to fill her tire after calling me a number of delightful names, including lazy public employee. He looked at me, looked at her, shook his head as if to say again, and told her, he doesn't work for us. He has no obligation to do anything for you. And if this is how you're behaving, I can see why he won't help you. Now please move and let him leave. After a little more discussion, including the ranger telling her that he'd call the local police for some sort of unlawful detainment if she didn't let me go, she moved. As I drove off, she was giving the ranger a piece of her mind at the top of her lungs. Her tire probably remains flat. The head-scratcher in this is, even if you did work for the park, what part in her brain made her think you wandered the parking lot with a tire pump as your job responsibility? That occurred to me afterwards. I was so boggled by the attitude and expectation, I don't think I even considered that. As she doesn't appear to own her own bicycle pump, my bet is her tire is still flat. From the sound of it, she could have used her own lungs with the right adapter. Karen standoff on the bus. I take public transport in the morning and afternoon. My usual afternoon bus driver, Karen, is an annoyance. She's always shouting and acting like she owns the whole damn bus. Anyway, one fateful afternoon she met her match, Karina. This woman was already screaming at us to move as she stepped onto the bus, but she calmed down as she got on a phone call. A little while later, Karina looked up and realized that she had missed her stop. It escalated from there. Karina started screaming to stop the bus, but Karen wouldn't listen. The usual police threats started, but Karen fired back on the same line. Karen pulled the bus over to continue the argument, and in the end, Karen emerged victorious and Karina had to wait for the next stop. I got home late, but probably not as late as Karina.
Karena
My kids had a bus driver in elementary school. She was the best and I loved her. She was the type to pull over and stop if anyone was misbehaving or making a lot of noise, and to write down license plates and call the cops if someone passed her while her loading/unloading red lights were on. She was hard, but she loved her job and really took care of the kids. She offered them a cold mist of water spray on hot days and got them gifts on holidays. When I took the bus in middle school, it was essentially a school bus right after 3 p.m. Kids always piling on rather than just waiting in line to pay their fare. This one kid squished onto the bus and the driver decided to close the doors. The doors clamped the kid's backpack. As everyone paid their fare, it was the kid's turn and the driver/jerk is yelling at him to pay or get off. The small kid actually slipped out of his backpack and stayed clamped between the doors. He paid. Then for some reason the kid walked to the back of the bus to tell his friends what happened but left his backpack hanging. Then the driver makes it to the next stop. Might I mention that no one requested to stop here and no one was waiting at the stop to hop on. And the driver brakes, opens the doors, lets the backpack fall out of the bus, closes the door, and starts driving. The kid runs to the front, and then you feel the slightest bump of the bus running over the backpack. The kid just stands there and stares at the doors and then looks at the driver. The driver started laughing. That dude had problems. 2 Karens on a drama bus. You lead a charmed life. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.